Hi,
Shall we begin?
Yes.
Okay, first things first. I want you to say your name for me.
I'm Elmer John Hasenmiller, Jr., Grand Mound, Iowa.
So, do you want me to start with my question to you, or do you have a place you want to
I'd
start?
rather you start with me.
Okay. When you heard about the start of the Korean War, what was the first thing that you thought about? Do you remember?
Well, I was examined for World War II, but I got a deferment to get out of high school. And then the World War II ended, and nothing but when the Korean War started in August, I got drafted on the spot. I was inducted into the Army the 15th of September of 50. And I took basic training at Camp Carson, Colorado. And I went through the usual beginning and that, and after we learned how to shoot with all the guns and everything, I took advanced training in a heavy mortar, and we trained in a heavy mortar company. And after I graduated from that, I went home on furlough, and while I was gone, orders come through for me to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for artillery training, and being I was gone, they sent the guy that trained on the mortar company in my place. And I got back off of leave, orders come through for him to go to Korea. He took my place, and I had to take his place. And that's the way I got on the trip to Korea. I reported the last day of May of 50 at Camp Stoneman, California for overseas shipment. And I hit Japan, I would say, this big transport had 8,000 troops on it headed for the Korean War. And we landed in Tokyo, and they unloaded us there, and we sent to Camp Drake on the north side of Korea or Japan. And now I had a brother that was entered into the service for the third time from World War II, and he was at Tokyo General Hospital, and I got to see him one night. And then the next day they loaded us on a train and went across Japan to Sasebo, Japan, and loaded on a ferry late one afternoon for overseas shipment to Korea. We pulled into Busan, Korea early in the morning, and they unloaded this ferry with us guys and fed us on the dock and put us on a train, and we headed north to, well, it was an overnight trip to Yeongdong-po, which is a town across the river from Seoul. And we sat on the train till it got dark, and then they loaded us on trucks and took us north through Seoul. Seoul was all shot to hell. It had changed hands during the war twice for sure. And then where all the colonels and generals and that were at Uijeonbu, north of Seoul. And that's where they interviewed us for a day or so, and then they shipped me into the eastern sector, and I arrived there late one afternoon, and they kind of indoctrinated me, and later that day I went up on the front lines on this mountain. It was 800 and some meters, and my first night on the front lines, I was artillery support for the Turkish United Nations troops, and the first night the North Koreans hit, and they got so close to overrunning us, they were throwing grenades on the hill with us before we beat them off. And that was my first night on the front line.
I want to do one thing. Hang on. Make sure that doesn't fall. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. There you go. Tell me about that first night in combat. Did you have any idea what you were getting into?
No, I was an artilleryman, or forward artillery artilleryman. And there was me and 3 other GIs and 2 Korean carriers in my crew. And we were all right there during my first night on the line, We were on the battle. So,
What was that? Was it controlled? Was it wild? What happened? What was?
well, there was just a lot of shooting and stuff, but I couldn't shoot any artillery because we were too close together. I mean, so we just had to fight them off by hand or with our sidearms and so on. Yeah.
Could you? It was dark. Could you see them?
Well, yes and no. Back then they had big searchlights, and they would turn them searchlights on the clouds, and it would be kind of brighten up. You could see what was going on. Yes, they did had a lot of searchlights across Korea doing that. Yeah. So well, after we run them off, I think quieted down, and we looked up this Satteree Valley. It was probably 20 or 25 miles up, and we shot at anything opportunity. Like if we saw 2 men, there's a saying, 2's company, 3's a crowd. That a lot of times if you saw 2 men, you never thought anything of it. But if there was 3, there's something going on. We'd drop a shell or 2 in there, and a lot of times it stirred things up, that there was something going to be going on that we put an end to. But other than that, our targets were pick them as they came, but there was always something going on up this valley. And every night after it got dark up at the end of this valley, we could see truck lights. Well, they were way up at the end of the valley, and our 105s or 155 couldn't reach them. They were so far up there. Well, then the valley just east of us in the Punch Bowl, they had 155 long toms with longer barrels on, and they even shot over the mountain range trying to hit them trucks, and they couldn't hit them. So the lieutenant, we kept bitching about it all the time, and one afternoon the lieutenant wanted to know if I was going to be on duty that night, and I said, yes, I am. He said, you watch the show tonight at midnight where them trucks are. So bang, bang, I mean, at midnight, whatever it was that hauls 500-pound bombs, that's what dropped on where all them trucks were. There was a lot of explosion and fire and everything from up there. And but I don't know what hauled the 500-pound bombs back, whether it B-29s or B-52s or what it was, but we never saw truck lights up there again. So that's life.
Did you stay at that location, or did you move forward?
No, we stayed at that location for long. Well, we never did move forward, but now west of us, where we were on this mountain, and forward were 2 more mountains. Now I can't remember the one mountain, but the second was 931. Now that's 931 meters, but that was a little higher than the other one. And as we had targets on them all the time, we could see the Korean carriers carrying stuff over there on 931, and then they disappeared in a hurry. So we kept yelling, there's something going on over there that we can't see. Well, one day while we were sitting on a trench or a reverse slope, me and Henry Turk from Quemato, Texas, and I were just sitting there along this trench, and two F-86 Sabre jets come screaming in front of us and low, and went over there and dropped two napalms on 931. And then the jets turned around. Well, as they were flying in, one of the guys said to the spotter plane, "I have troops in the open," and the spotter plane guy said, "Go ahead." Well, the jets turned around, and here they come directly at us where we were. And we kept looking and looking, and all of a sudden one of them started smoking. And I says, "They're machine gunning us." And I drove in a trench, and Henry Turk he landed on top of me, and they machine gunned us. Now that's our own jets machine gunning their own troops. And I grabbed the radio and I used a few harsh words to tell them, if that's all the better you can do, you just machine gun your own troops. Go back to Japan, wherever you came from, and stay there. No comment or nothing. And they turned around and made their second run. Only this time, they knew where we were at. They went right over us, and they dropped two more bombs on 931. And when they come to turn around this time, they come and go home. They were more than 8 feet above us. The draft from them two planes was something different. Never heard a thing about it. You know. But the machine gunning, one of the shells hit above Henry Turk's back about 4 or 5 inches and hit the bank, and well, whatever kind of they were using, it exploded. It never got anything in his back, but it hit him hard enough with stuff that it broke the skin in 5 or 6 places in it, through his clothes and stuff. And we had to get a medic up there and patch him up. But that's all it was. One of the Turks that were in the trench ahead of us, one of them lost a hand about halfway up to his elbow. And we had to get him on a stretcher and get him down and get repaired. We had to put a tourniquet on him because he was just hanging there by one nerve or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. That was my first call, close call. Yeah.
Well, did something like that happen again? Did you have another close call where something happened where...
Well, when this mountain we were on was 800 and some meters, we could go down. We were on the mountain 2 weeks at a time. You stayed there 2 weeks, then you went down for 2 days for hot meals and clean clothes and showers and so on. I was on there 1 day short of 3 weeks, my first time up there. I had my clothes on 3 weeks and everything, 3 weeks of beard and the whole bit. And when I went down, I had my combat helmet and gun and everything, and walking across the compound, and while I was at Camp Stoneman, California, I got friendly with a guy, and I went over on the first boat. Now that first boat had 8,000 troops on it, and as I come down off of the mountain, why, this guy that I'd chummed with in California was walking across the compound. And I had 3 weeks of beard on and my steel helmet and the whole bit. I met him face to face and spoke to him, and said hi. He walked right by me, and I let him get away and I hollered his name. And he stopped cold. Who in the hell in Korea knows my name? And he still didn't recognize me. I took my steel helmet off, and then he knew who I was. I never seen him in Korea again. Yeah, so another time when I come off of the line, now where we went to get clean clothes and showers, and that was 6, 7 miles back. And we were in a Jeep going back, and we met a Jeep, and this guy started hollering, Hasenmiller, Hasenmiller. So we stopped. Who knows Hasenmiller? Meeting a Jeep like that. Well, it was a guy that trained us on the motor company in Camp Carson, Colorado. That outfit had come over, and he tried to talk me into transferring into his outfit, but I wouldn't do it. So, but I went over to see where his outfit was a couple times, but I stayed right where I was at. But
What'd they do with your uniform? What'd they do when you went back to, after 3 weeks on the line, what did you do with your uniform? Did you shave? What'd you do?
yeah, we went back for showers, shave, clean clothes and new clothes and stuff like that. Well, you're up there. We basically lived with the rats and that up there too. Because well, we lived on sea ration. Our 2 Korean couriers went down every day for a case of sea rations and 5 gallons of water. And well, the case of sea ration has 6 packages in, which is each one had 6 cans in it. Now 3 of them were pork and beans, chicken and rice. There were 3 of them, and then 3 dry cans had some crackers and maybe a thing of jelly or chocolate, a thing of toilet paper, some chicken gum, and well, I don't think there was any cigarettes in there because there where we were on the front lines, we couldn't, you couldn't smoke, no way, because we had trouble with snipers there with the Turks, and they'd see that smoke coming up where they knew where we were, and so that's the way we lived for, I had 10.5 months. Well, I had two or three other positions, and but I was there. We were there quite a while, and I was down sleeping one night at 1:30. The guy that was on duty come down and woke me up. He says, "Lieutenant wants to talk to you." And I said, "Well, can he talk to you?" "No, he wants to talk to you." So I got up and went on, and he said, "I have some orders." I said, "Okay." He says, "As of right now, hill such and such, you are not to fire on it, regardless of whether you see, hear, or anything, nothing." I said, "If that's what you want, that's what you'll get." Well, that was all right. 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, all hell broke loose on this mountain. The Americans were pushing, and that turned out to be Bloody Ridge, well, one of the big battles in Korea. So, and we were there, I suppose 3 or 4 days, and then they pack up your crew, you're going over there on that one. So we were over there for a little while, and then the same thing come through on the 931, which was west of us away, so that no firing on that after at 3 or 3:30, and then all hell broke loose. But now that turned out to be Heartbreak Ridge. The Americans got pushed off of that 2 times with heavy casualties, and they kept at it, and they finally got on it and got situated. They had the American Air Force machine gunning constantly on it. That kept the Koreans covered up. and they kept throwing colored grenades. That's where the Americans, that showed where the Americans were at. And then when they pulled them off, when the North Koreans come out of where they were hiding, the Americans were situated. They even were based. They had flamethrowers and the whole bit to fight them. And then they found where the North Koreans had this cave that they had dug into the mountain, and a lot of them got into that and hid. And they tried to coax them out. None came out. Well, they used the flamethrowers in a good way. They just cooked them, and they blew the entrances shut. They never did open them up. Well, that turned out to be Heartbreak Ridge. The Americans had casualties, 50,000. It was terrible. It's hard to think about it. But I guess that's life. It was kind of funny. I had a driver's license to drive truck in the Army. You had to have a license. So I went down for my 2 days rest one time, and the lieutenant says, Hasenmiller, go and check a deuce and a half out. We're going to put a crew up on some territory. We had just one. And he said, you check a truck and you take them over there. So on the trucks, on each fender, there's a bracket where it held a 5-gallon can of gas. So when I checked the truck out, I took the 5-gallon cans of gas off and set them there. We loaded the crew on there, or on my truck, and headed out. And we come around there, the fingers sticking out, and the roads were just a lot of holes in them, and you couldn't go very fast. We were going real slow. I had 8 men in the back end, and I come around this one, and there sat an American tank with the track knocked off of it, and 3 GIs sitting behind it. And I never thought about anything about it, and we were moving real slow, and I went over by the edge of this place to unload the crew, and this lieutenant comes up to me and he said, "You're pretty lucky." And I, "Well, why am I so lucky?" And he said, "Well, there's a sniper up on the ridge with an elephant gun." Now, an elephant gun is an anti-tank weapon with a 7-foot barrel. And he said, he has shot at every vehicle that come around and you come around, so he must have thought you were bait and didn't shoot at you. He said, you better be moving on when you leave. So I unloaded the crew and we left, and I thought I was moving on. He took a shot at me, and it hit right beside my left foot on the fender and exploded. If that can of gas would have been there, I wouldn't be here today. Yeah, well, then going up and down the mountain, why, they had North Korean infiltrators, and the one time we were coming along, or going up, and I was taking a new guy with me, and there was 3 ways to get up on the mountain, and the one wasn't so bad. The other 2 were awful rocky, and we always took that. But on the way up there was a burnout shack, and it had the center burnout. It had 2 ends sitting there, and we going along, and all of a sudden, a lot of firing. We dove off of the trail, and I had 30-round clips in my carbine, and I emptied one of them out and part of another one, and thing got quiet. And I crawled up there, well, there laid a North Korean, and I thought he was dead. And I walked over on the other end, and there were two old people sitting there. They were dead. And I heard something behind me, and that North Korean was just picking up his gun. And I cut loose with my carbine, and I had 3 shells in that last clip, and I hit all 3 in his head. You know what that does to your head? Just disintegrates. He's dead now. Yeah. So then things happened, and we had 4 or 5 observation crews on our end over there. And one of the crews way to, well, back, I'll call it our west. One guy had got off duty and crawled in a hole in the ground, and he had taken his boots off, and he seen this arm come around. And he said he knew it was an infiltrator throwing a grenade in with him, and he rolled away from it. Well, it so happens that a grenade landed just opposite his shoes when it exploded, but he got a lot in his hip and shrapnel in his hip and leg. So they needed help to carry him to the helicopter landing thing to get him medication. So he was a big guy, and it put 4 men on the stretcher. They put the stretcher on their shoulder, and we had to take on a trail. And then 4 guys on a stretcher and 4 guys with our hand, and the guys holding the stretcher on their back to help them keep their balance. And we carried him on thin trails and every other damn thing till we got him over where the helicopter was. Well, we put him in the stretcher on the helicopter, and the helicopter lifted up and had to set it back down. He weighed 280 pounds. We had to put stuff on the other side to counterweight him before the helicopter could take off. But we got him out of there. So, yeah, that was quite an ordeal, you know. You'd think, why can't we just carry somebody? But, well, there was no good, easy way of doing it up in the ridges and in the mountains like that. I tell you, I was ambushed one other time. We was coming back up to our position, and 2 guys from one of the other ones had been down for their 2 days, and we'll just go up with you and walk across all the ridges over to where we are. So, well, they did. We got going up the thing, and all hell broke loose. Man, we fought for 15 or 20 minutes before everything quieted down. Well, we worked our way up to where the firing was all coming from, and there was 5 dead North Koreans. And we don't know if any got away or not, but that we had 5 that had stuck through the lines, and well, that wouldn't be too hard to do in the mountain, you know, with the gullies and trees and all that good stuff. So, but none of us got hurt, so I don't know. I don't know what else. You got any questions for me?
I do have questions for you. It sounds like there was more than one time where you were able to sit back and go, I lived.
Yeah.
Did it strike you then what happened, or looking back now it means more?
Well, you're so keyed up and on edge all the time. It was just something that happened. No, it bothered you, sure. Well, I think of Korea every day. Can't forget it. But I had a good bunch of guys or crew, and there's a couple of them. Well, I had one guy from Georgia. He was a tall, blonde-haired kid. He only thought of himself. Well, that don't work. And he was there for his 2 weeks, and when he went down, I told the lieutenant, don't send him back. And then another guy, you weren't allowed to have booze or on the line. Well, one of the guys went down for his 2 days, and well, I had a beer ration, but I traded mine for Pepsi. And he brought some of his beer up, or a bunch of it, and while he was on duty, he drank it, he got drunk and passed out. Well, we were down in a sleeping shelter we had, and one of the Koreans, we took stretchers and stretched them out, one on the floor, two on the floor. Then we got empty ammunition boxes and built up and put another one there so we could sleep four. Now these two Koreans very seldom slept in a stretcher. On a stretcher, they just curled up in a corner. And they had when it got cold, they made a little stove out of a 5-gallon gas can. They picked up sticks and that's what kept it. It wasn't freezing in where we slept, that way. But anything to get warm and make her do. Well, where I was there in that first position with the Turks, we had a trench that dug up, I suppose it was 15, 18 feet up, and then at the top was hollowed out about 4 feet wide and 5 or 6 feet long. And then the top of the mountain was here, and we had our scoops and that here with the camouflage stuff over the top of us, and we opened that up to look the field glasses up the alley or up the valley, and at night closed that down. But you weren't allowed to smoke up there or nothing. So, and I had a new guy, young guy on the scope with me one time, in the daytime, and he was on the good scopes to look, and I just had the good field glasses, and he said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what's the matter with you? There's a tank coming down the valley." I said, "Well, keep an eye on it, we're going to see what happens here." And so I got looking at him, and I had a big map, and every fire mission we had a pin and a number on it. And we kept watching him, and finally he pulled in behind one of the fingers that come out from the mountain. And we called down and said, "We got a fire mission for you, fire mission such and such. We want to go left 50, fire for effect, no adjust." Well, they did. Nothing happened. Give me a left 50, same thing, no adjust. And they did. We got a little smoke. Okay, give me another left 50 and 3 more. And we had results. Then we had black smoke coming, so pretty soon a few extra explosions too. So we got us a tank.
Did anyone ever get close enough to you from the enemy to come up and try and bother you right where you were in your forward observer position?
No. After that first night, no. No, the Turks had trench down in front, but we very seldom went up on the ridge in the daytime on account of snipers. Well, one night it had gotten dark, and this guy was there with me, and I says, "I'm going out and look around," and I got up there on the ridge, and here laid all kinds of clothes and guns and helmets and everything, and no Turks. Oh my God, what's going on? So when I got back, I told the guy, keep your eyes and ears open and keep looking around. We got no Turks up there. And I said, we may have to bug out of here for some damn reason. So next morning, I went up there, just starting to get light, and I went up there, and all the guns and clothes and everything were gone. And this one Turk come up and he says, can I help you? And I said, yeah. What in the hell went on last night? He just kind of grinned. In just a minute, he went over and he come back carrying this cap. He says, North Korean. The sniper had taken a shot at him that day, and they seen where it come from, and they went and got him that night. They only went with knives.
I want to check something. Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
Hold the baby. I'll be right back. I'm going to go see if I can make this not be so loud. You hearing that? The radio?
When he's not talking.
Yeah. Friends.
All right.
Very good.
When-
Go ahead.
When they moved us off of Heartbreak Ridge, well, I was on Heartbreak Ridge in the winter of 51 and 2. Come spring started showing up a little bit. They moved me and my crew over to the eastern sector further. And we were going to be artillery support for the Korean Army. They were relieving the U.S. Marines over there. And we looked at this, across this valley, the Muson was the name of the mountain. That was 1,300 and some meters. And a big finger come down off of that, and they had tunneled through the damn thing, and they had an artillery piece in there. And they'd stick that out and fire a few wild rounds at where they could see everybody, and pull it back when we had it zeroed in. But all we could get was where the gun set when they brought it out. So, well, that just kept on, and I said, we need something bigger than our agent shelled. So he says, the lieutenant said something, well, what do you mean bigger? I says, bigger and big. I says, they're down a lot of feet. So one day he made a comment about the battleship Iowa. And I said, anything that's big. So one day he called me and he says, are you still interested in shooting the battleship Iowa? And I says, anything big. He says, talk to them, they're on your radio. Oh, this, come on to me, landlubbers, are you there? Yeah, we're here. This is the battleship Iowa. So we talked and explained to him what it was, and I says, have you gotten the information from the lieutenant and all them down to pinpoint that? He says, we've got everything on the map pinpointed. And when do you want to fire? I says, it's up to you. I said, anytime you get where you're in position to fire. He says, let's set it up tomorrow morning for around 7 o'clock. So I said, that's fine with me. So we never heard anything about the next morning at 10 minutes to 7. Landlubbers, are you there yet? Yeah, we're here. So we will fire at 7 o'clock. So that went on at 7 o'clock. Duck your head, here it comes. Boom. It did. It is perfect. And they were 7 miles out and we were 7 miles in. 14 miles that went. Hit it perfect. No more gun. But, well, they claim it was a 2,000-pound shell. Well, I don't know. Does the battleship fire a shell that big? I don't know.
Yes. Yes, it does.
I thought maybe it was a missile. No?
No.
Well, now this deal, I don't know. Does Lynn have that book, blue book?
She does.
Well, it's written up in there. I think my name is mentioned. Well, it is mentioned on the battleship. The battleship Iowa is a museum today. I think in San Diego.
Yes,
It's been in 2 or 3 different places.
yes, it's in Long Beach right now.
Oh, is that where it is? Okay.
But they fired for you.
Yeah.
You called it in and they shot for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah, I've never been there, but somebody said, yeah, your name is mentioned on the poster. So,
Did you ever talk with them after that?
no, never, nope.
But there was that one day where they called you and they set it up for what, 12 hours later?
Well, it was in the afternoon, and this is 7 o'clock next morning. So, yeah, here's the Army shooting the battleship.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
When you came home, I got a couple questions for you, okay?
yeah.
When you were there fighting, did you feel any sense of patriotism, or was it just, I'm here, I'm doing my job? Can you tell me
Yeah.
which it was?
No, I had a job to do, and that's what we did. Yeah, yeah. And we did the best we could. Well, the lieutenant got depending on me quite a bit. Yeah. Well, I did a good job, and most of my men were damn good. Well, if you want, call them patriotic men. So,
Do you have any thought about what you did when you came home? Did you feel like it was worth it, or was it not worth it?
well, that didn't bother me. I was home, period. Yeah. One thing, we were looked down on. Only one guy greeted me. Yep. Well, Vietnam's a little that way too. Yeah, after 10.5 months of that way. You know, I worked my men there when we got over in that eastern sector. We were, this ridge run along and we were down in the front. And hell, the North Koreans could see us. Well, I walked around on the other side of the dumb thing one day and we got down just about the end of it and here was a hole in the thing. And it was dug up to the top of the thing and I, well, what in the hell is that? So I crawled up there, walked and crawled up there. Well, up at the top, it was all bellied out and everything. Somebody had used it for a position. So I got orders that I could, instead of being down in the front, we could come over there and go up in there. Well, now our sleeping bunker was down on the other, from the front. It was about 300 feet down the line around the corner. But the Marines had used it, but it was not a good place to sleep. So I asked about moving our position over there. Well, we did. So then we started digging in at the end of this thing that went up there, and we dug it out and made us a place to live instead of that other sleep and so on. Well, we were just starting to dig. Well, spring was just showing up, so I mean, we had some frozen ground to get through, and we started bagging. And one day, why, our Jeep driver showed up with supplies. What the hell are you doing? Well, we're going to dig back in here and fix something like a hut for us to sleep in. Well, hey, he says, there's a heck of a bunch of, I'll call them telephone poles down the line. They're 4-inch and probably 10, 12 feet long. He says, why don't you bag and put that for your roof? So, oh yeah, hell, we can do that. So he left. Pretty soon, here he come. He had 5 of them. And well, that's all he could let between the seats and on. And I don't remember that. They were, oh, I'm going to say at least 10 feet. So we kept building to fit the pole. And when he got it up, well, hell, we had them close together. And we put a poncho on the damn things and threw dirt and that on them, you know, to hold that. At least it wouldn't leak. So we had it all fixed up. And we had 4 places to sleep and a little place to sit. And then where the tunnel went up to the top, we put a blanket over that. There was no draft and went up at the top. And I mean, hell, we was getting warm. Well, we stole and every other thing. If we could see something we could use, why we did. So one day I called down and I said, can you get me the truck driver or the Jeep driver? I want to talk to him. So he answered. I said, I need a favor. And he says, what's that? I would need a tarp off of the 2.5 truck. He said, yeah, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to cover that whole thing with that 2.5 tarp. So we covered the whole thing and kind of got up over the tunnel a little bit. And, you know, we shed water and everything else. And that's where we lived. We had a little spot out front where we could sit and, you know, well, there was a trail in front of us. So the South Korean people were going by all the time. And we got around, made a little around the corner we could take a leak in. We dug a hole and put a bunch of big rock in there, you know, and where it would drain away. And but they had to take a poop while you had to go down the line there to go do that. So that's where I was, and then we got a sergeant in the outfit to replace one of the guys, and he got friendly with this colonel of the Korean Army, and he was always down there. Well, now there's women in the Korean Army. Now, well, he had a girlfriend too. Whether that was for her or what, I don't know. But our excess sea ration we had sitting on the bunch, you know. Some days you could eat twice, and some days you could eat 3. Anything excess we had sitting there. All of a sudden, I noticed some of our cans are disappearing. And so I just had a couple of guys there one day, and I said, what's happening to the other rations? Don't you know? I said, no, I'm asking you. Well, he says, every time the sergeant goes down to visit his Korean colonel, he takes a couple cans of stuff with him. Oh, well, that's going to cease right now. I laid the law down on him.
Did you see a lot of Korean refugees coming down through where you were, or did you never see that?
Early, yes, but later, one night we tried to sneak 3 Korean nurses through the lines into North Korea. They were gone 2 days, but they come back. They didn't make it. So, but usually, if they came, they were real old people. Well, when we got over there on Bloody Ridge, a man and a woman and like a 16-year-old girl with a baby come through the lines, and she was injured on one arm, and a big black guy showed up, and he was going to take her out and have sex. Whoa. We took his gun away from him. And we called the lieutenant and sent me a couple of MPs. He went. Oh, yeah. Anything goes at times. So. But you had to watch the South Koreans. They were slicker than hell. They could steal something that you were looking at and you wouldn't see it go. Now, that's a fact.
Well, did the South Korean soldiers come up and take stuff from you, or were they
Just-
civilians?
No, the soldiers, some of them, I mean, if you, something to lay in there, you know, and be laying by you or something, you standing there talking to them or something like that, and something over there, why, you look up and it's gone. So that's the way up where our little hut was there, they never got up there where our stuff was, you know, our excess stuff and like that. But no, we kind of steered clear of them if we could.
When you were observing back out onto the two ridges, when the higher powers came and said, "Don't shoot over there because our guys are over there," could you see the battle? Could you see through your glasses, or you just knew that was what was going on?
No, we knew what was going on. We could see the top of it. I mean, because that's the way we could see them carrying supplies, yeah. But to see the battle, no. Well, the battle started 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and like on Bloody Ridge, why the Americans took it over pretty damn quick. When we got over there, why this one guy that was with me most of the time in Korea, Henry Turk was his name. We got over there and there was a dead North Korean in a foxhole and about that much of the end of his rifle stuck out. He wanted that gun. See, he worked and he worked and he worked. He finally got it, but this guy had been dead for a long time, and oh, that stock stunk something terrible. He cleaned that and he cleaned it, and we got over there and there was a hole big enough 3 of us slept in, and he'd bring that thing in, and I ain't sleeping with that stinking thing in there, and I'd throw it out. I threw it out twice. Don't bring it in again. And I often wondered if he got it home, because you had trouble getting stuff. You got on the boat, any weapons you had to declare and get a receipt. Well, when I got on the boat, well, I had my dad send me over a 38, and I carried up there crawling around and everything. Rather than dragging my carbine, I had this 38, and when I got on the boat, I went up and declared it. And on a receipt, oh, we can't give receipts. Well, I got to have a receipt. No, we can't give you one. So I picked it up off the counter and headed for the door. Where are you going? I'm going to throw this overboard. If I don't get a receipt, I ain't going to get it home. Well, they relented and I got a receipt. I got it home.
Is that the one that I saw pictures of somebody holding a pistol? Is that you?
Well, it might be, yeah.
A revolver. Technically, it's a revolver.
Yeah, it was a 38, yeah.
Okay.
It was from a Clinton policeman that somewhere along the line he got shot or his gun went off or some damn thing and he had to retire. And well, my folks knew some people from Clinton that bought a farm around Calamus, and they got wind of him, and that's where Dad got the 38. It was from him. So.
Did you ever use it while you were there?
Oh yeah. Because usually if you did something crawling around much, why, I'd leave my carbine and add the 38. But, you know, where we were, that first position, we dug that trench up there to the top, and right down at the end, there was a trail running like this, and it was dug into the bank. That's where I slept. It was long enough, and it even had an air mattress in it with a blanket on it. And that's where I slept. Well, the rainy season come, and I was sleeping dry, but I felt funny, and I thought, what the hell, am I floating? So I had a flashlight, and I got it lit up, and yeah, I was just about ready to float. And there's a ledge about that wide, run about 4 feet along there, and I shined over there, lined up with rats. Said we lived with rats. I shooed them out of there.
Okay, I got one. What was the weather like? I've always heard that the winters were awful.
Oh, yes. The winter of 51 and 52 on Heartbreak Ridge, I was on duty with another guy. Well, now, when we got our supplies in them holes, them cases that our sea rations come in, we lined it with cardboard all around and on our floor. And I said, we had some kind of a little bitty thing, and I run on kerosene, but it threw heat, but you had to be right where the heat was. And I says to him, is it awful cold? He says, yeah, it seems a little bit cold. And I said, so I called down to the guys that done the plot, and I says, can you tell me how cold it is? Well, no, I can't, but he said, I can hook up with the gun battery, they can tell you, because they have to adjust for cold too. So I called in and I told him who I was, and he says, are you sitting down? And I said, well, no, I'm not. You better, he says, it's 37 below zero. 37 below zero on Heartbreak Ridge.
Did you get frostbite or anything like that?
Did what?
Frostbite.
No, I kept one of my guys keep covered and wear your gloves and everything. If you get too cold, go someplace to get warm. Because like most of the time, if the Koreans weren't gone or something, they have a little fire down there that from that 5-gallon gas can that they could get down, and you could get warmed up pretty damn easy from it. You know, that's one thing nice about that. So, but yeah.
When you were short time, did you know you were short? Did you know you were close to coming home? So
No. Well, I knew. Well, you had to have 50 points, and I ended up 40 points, and I had 42. So I had stayed an extra 2 weeks somewhere along the line. Yeah. Well, I was working the day they called me down there 1 o'clock one afternoon. They said, get your ass down here, you're going home. You didn't have to say it twice. So I went down there, and well, there was a bunch more that were going some direction too. And so that night there was a hell of a party. Well, me and another guy had to work the damn plotter for some missions that come in, and some of them weren't able to. So the next morning, we loaded the truck up at 5 o'clock. We were going to make it back from where we were through Sewell and up in the Wee John Boo, there where the generals and them were. So we left at 5 o'clock. We got about 15 miles away. Goddamn brakes went out on the truck. And this guy, he stopped. He says, we can't go all the way down there through Seoul and everything without brakes. And I said, can you shift this truck down? Oh, yeah, hell, I know. All right, I was in the center. Says, you got a good handbrake. You run the shifting down. I'll run the handbrake. We go through Seoul. We go through Seoul. So slow. By God, we made her. Yeah. After that sniper shot that truck, well, they got him that afternoon. But I brought the lieutenant's truck back with a hole hit right there by my left foot, you know. Well, the guy that was riding shotgun, he went ape shit. I thought he got hit, but he didn't. But it went down and hit the front wheel drive on the truck. And, it still was drivable, but it had to have some repairs. So.
when that hit on your truck, did you say anything, or was it just so much of a shock there were no words?
Well, I don't remember, but I bet I had a word for it. Well, I can't even remember what, my windows were rolled down. So I mean, it was summer, and well, hell, maybe if the windows would have been rolled up and the gas can wouldn't, then there I might have been able to bail out the other side if it wouldn't have broke the window or something. But other than that, why, I don't know. It was just far enough ahead of my foot that maybe it wouldn't have broke the windows and so on, but it has sure been a hell of a fire. You know, 5 gallons of gas with a bang like that. Jeez.
To come home, did you get on a ship or get on an airplane?
No, ship. I wasn't that lucky to get on an airplane. Well, when I went on R&R, the 5 days I was off the line. That was all I was ever off the line. 5 days. I went to Yokohama, and that was a big 4-engine, flew out of Seoul, and we hit a damn storm and shit. We were all over, and but then no, Incheon is on the west side of Seoul, toward the what ocean is over there? Indian Ocean. Okay, but see, the big transport couldn't get close enough. The water wasn't deep enough to get into the. They had to load us on some kind of a thing to get us out to the big ship. Then we went around Busan to Sasebo, and we stayed there. I don't know how many nights, but you know, there was a double cot here and a double one, and then it was about that far away from the wall. And you had your duffel bag and that, and one night the guys went to bed, they took their billfold and stuck them under their pillows. Wrong place to put them. The guy cleaned the whole damn works out. He didn't get Elmer. Guess where mine was? In my underwear. Everybody said, in your underwear. Well, you didn't piss on it, but it was there, and I had money. Well, I had left my billfold there and where the guys had done the plotting, and when I was over in R&R, I brought a case of whiskey back in my duffel bag, and I was getting $25 a fifth for guys walking by. I had $400 and a $2 bill in my billfold, and I left it ran with their guys doing the plotting. Somebody stole the goddamn thing.
So you came home on the boat. Did you go to California or?
Yeah, Camp Stoneman where we left to go overseas, yeah.
And then did you muster out there or did you come back to Iowa to muster out?
No, they put us on a train and back to Fort Sheridan. Well, see, I had 30 days leave coming and 30 days in the service. I mean, goddamn, I figured they'd kick me out, but they didn't. They made me serve that and paid me for that. But they made an MP out of me at Fort Sheridan, Illinois. So we weren't even supposed to get any leave, but we talked to Lieutenant, and my brother was getting married, and we asked for a week vacation or leave, and he let us have it. But no, hell, well, see, that Fort Sheridan where all the big generals are and all that shit. Well, the Navy is right beside us there, got all their big stuff there too. Well, my brother-in-law was in the Navy, and but they worked downtown Chicago, and they had a hell of a time finding a parking spot for their car. So it was usually 5 or 6 in one car, and hope for a good parking spot. Well, he bitched so much about up there at the Navy part. They had a lot of empty buildings and stuff like that. Why are we going downtown Chicago when you've got so damn much space up here? You could put the same thing up here. Well, they finally woke up to it and moved it all up there. Funny.
When you came back to Iowa, who was the first person you saw?
Oh boy. Well, when we got the pass to get out of Fort Sheridan, there's a guy from Harvey, Illinois, which is south of Chicago. He knew. Well, we looked at the map and we could have him come in and get me at his house. So I rode down to his house, and then my mother and brother come and picked me up there at Harvey, Illinois, and brought me back to Iowa. So, and then I went, well, I had a car and I drove back to Harvey, Illinois, and picked him up and went back up to camp when I had to go back. And well, from then to Fort Sheridan, I usually just cut out and headed west and worked my way down into Iowa. But I was only basically there a month. So, but no, they made me serve the whole damn week.
You didn't talk about your experience for a long time. Was there a reason you started talking about it?
Oh, I don't know. People, I think a lot of people were afraid to ask about it. Well, now there's still, I've been a Legion member for 66 years, and at the last, we have a big turkey supper once a year for Thanksgiving, and there's some Vietnam veterans, and I made some comment sitting beside the one guy and about fighting in Korea, and he asked me a couple of questions. Well, then they were a couple of guys across the table, they were interested too. Boy, they started asking questions about the fighting and all that stuff, you know. And they were really interested, but most generally, a lot of people, they didn't give a damn. So, but now my older brother Don was in the World War II. He's in the medical corps in France and Germany. And he got out, he stayed in the reserve. Well, he went to Cairo deal there in Davenport, to be a Cairo. And then he set up down in Westlaco, Texas. And then the Russians closed the roads going into Berlin. And they had to fly everything in. The Russians stirred things up. Damned if they didn't call him back the second time. And so then he was stationed at San Antonio at the burn unit there. And then he got out and went back. He went to Denver and was going to more schooling there. And before I went in, we went out to see him in Denver and so on. And when I got drafted, and I was at Colorado Springs, which is about 75 miles south of Denver. They come down and see me several times. Well, then the damn Korean War, they called him back in the third time. And then, well, where we lived there, a mile west of Grand Mound, we lived on the north side of the highway. And the people lived across the road on the south side were Bushlow's. They had 3 children, Roger, Helen, and Lillian. Lillian was a nurse, and I don't know whether she joined the Navy and married a Navy guy or whether she married a Navy guy, but anyway, they always claimed that she outranked her husband, but anyway, she worked at the Tokyo General Hospital where my brother worked. 6,000 miles apart, neighbors across the road working in the same hospital.
I always have leftover questions. I have a couple more, and then we'll be done. I promise.
No, that's fine.
Let's see. Did you ever get wounded while you were in Korea?
Not really wounded, no. You might be headed for a foxhole or something, get scraped or something, but wounded, no. Well, about the closest one was that one that shot the truck at the truck. And well, then when they machine gun us, I was on the bottom of that deal. So,
Does it amaze you that you made it through all of that with basically without a scratch?
yes, it did. Yeah,
Do you attribute it to anything?
no. That one time, that infiltrator, and I was taking a young guy up with me. No, that's the one that we were going along and going up. I mean, we were quiet, and all of a sudden he started shooting. We must have woke him up, but it was wild shooting. And we just fired back, and got off of the trail. Well, this young guy, I forgot about him when I went after this North Korean and got him, and I went and looked at him, and when I had shot him the second time, he said, well, here come that guy. Oh, God, he didn't have his helmet on. And where's your helmet? And he looked at me, and just like I stupefied. And where's your helmet? Go find your helmet. Well, he left and come back, and he was wearing his helmet, and it had a dent in the side where one shell hit it. It did, and it probably knocked it off of his head. That was like probably getting hit by a damn baseball bat. That's why he was talking a little funny, Oh, but
Did you ever lose anybody while you were right there close, or did you guys basically, because you were forward observers, you were left mostly alone?
yeah. Well, we had a damn sandbag hut, and the rainy season come, and I made the guys get out, but it was raining and it was weakening the damn thing, and I made the guys get out, except one guy wouldn't get out, and it collapsed on him and killed him. But he wouldn't come out. Come on, that thing ain't safe, no. I said, all right. Well, it finally collapsed on him and killed him. So, but other than that, no, we had a few incidences. Like when we were down for our bath or hot meal and that, we had to go before this one sergeant, and he was a plain asshole, and had to go before him. So that one of my men went before him, and your haircut ain't short enough. You go back up there, and I want you down here tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock for another haircut. Well, to be down there at 7 o'clock, he had to leave the front line in the dark. And I said, well, I'll send a man down with you. No, he says, I'm going by myself. So he did. And he went down and got a haircut and come back, went before the sergeant. And he went the second time. Nope, ain't short enough. You get back up there. You'll be down here tomorrow. He got it all cut off that time. And I knew there was going to be trouble. And I tried to talk to him, but he had his mind made up somewhere along the line. Well, then this sergeant decided he was going to inspect all the OPs. So he come up to my OP, and I wasn't there. And when I got back, he was working on one of my men, and I said, what's going on? And he straightened that guy out. Now, just a minute. Them are my men. If you got anything to say, you say it to me. I will take care of it. And otherwise, let them alone or get the hell out of here. Well, he got out. Well, then he had big problems with more than that, because he was going up to inspect one, and somebody took a shot at him on his way up. Whether they meant to scare him or hit him, I don't know, but he transferred out the next day.
We've talked about a lot of stuff. Is there something that we've missed?
No,
Nah.
I'll probably remember something, but no,
Your story is amazing. And I appreciate what you
Well,
did.
it's damn hard not to think about it all your life, I'll tell you that. Maybe I could have got help, I don't know. But Well, I got out and what, so 14th of May, June, July, you know. I got out the 14th of July. I went in the 15th of September. And I got out the 14th of July, 52. And, well, then I got married next May, the 8th. Well, then the 1st of March of 53, I got married the 8th of May, and I started farming the 1st of March. I worked at Jackie's in Bettendorf from 47 on till then, and I quit there and started farming. And one of my neighbors had a hell of an electrical storm in August, and he had 2 barns, milked a lot of cows. One got caught one barn on fire, and the other one was 20 feet away, and it took them both. So we were up there going to pour cement foundation, and that was before ready mix cement. It was a whole hand mix, and we were turning the bowl on the mixer, and always a little putt-putt engine, always had trouble getting it started, and I followed the bowl over and got my hand in the gears. That was in August, so. And here I was milking 10 or 12 cows too. I had machines, but shit on that hand, I was in the hospital 5 days with that. So.
You went through all that, you went through Korea, people shooting at you, and you come home and your hand gets caught in the gears.
Yeah. Oh hell, I've had 12 operations. I've had quadruple bypass surgery. I broke both hips. Yeah.
Does it keep you up at night, your memories of Korea, or does it come and go?
It comes and goes, yeah. If I lay awake and can't sleep, that's when it gets me a lot, yeah. So.
You know what, Elmer? That's enough.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.